he had 2 pens that malfunctioned. He was freaking out, and in today's video, we are going to talk all about his experience, all about how he contacted Eli Lilly and the entire process. All of a sudden, you see the medication just squirting across the room, and I'm like, hey, my loves, it is Crissy G. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are back, welcome back. Today, I have a special guest, and my hubby. So he recently started his own Manjaro journey, and he was on it for what, about 3 months?
About 3 months, yeah.
He was on it for about 3 months, and then he came off of it just because he stopped going to the doctor and he didn't go back to get his supply and all that good stuff. Anyhow, he went back. He is diabetic. His insurance does cover Manjaro, and he's currently using the $25 coupon to get the medication. So that being said, he recently came back onto his journey, and he's on it. You were on your second box?
Second box, sorry. Yeah.
Second box, and his pens malfunctioned. Like, I've been on it over a year and never had any issues. He's on his second month, you know, after being on it 3 months previous, and he's gonna walk us through it because so many of you have asked me, like, hey, my pen did this, my pen malfunctioned, the medicine shot out, and I never understand because I've never had that issue. The worst part for me is not feeling the injection when I go to take the injection. So that's about it, right? I can relate to that. But as far as it malfunctioning, I had never experienced it, but I got to see it firsthand with him because typically he will do it around me because we'll remind each other in the morning, like, oh, my shot. And so we kind of take it together. And that morning he injected himself and didn't hear that second click. So what do you do when you don't hear that second click? So we're going to kind of walk you guys step by step of what happened that morning and then what he did after to gain a second box, because it is not as easy as you guys think to call Eli Lilly and get a box replaced, a replacement box. I think everybody thinks, oh, because even I was like, ooh, I'm excited to see how easy it is because maybe I can get me another box. It is not that easy. They asked a ton of questions, so in today's video, we're going to talk all about that. So go ahead and walk us through what happened that morning.
Yeah, so that morning I went to where we store the shots, grabbed one out, getting ready to take the shot, put it up against my stomach like I'm supposed to, put it against my stomach, hit the injection.
The trigger, yeah.
Hit the trigger, and it clicked once. And it's already bad enough I don't like taking shots, so I was trying to hurry up and wanted to hear the second click right away. Put it up against my stomach, hit the trigger, waiting for the second click, and it didn't happen right. I didn't hear it, so I didn't know if it was just something I was doing wrong. So I just took it out, and when I took it out, I went to my wife here and said, "Hey, my shot's not working, right?" And then she's like, "Really?" And so she grabbed it from me.
We took it out. So yes, at that point he was like, I didn't hear a second click, and I'm like, are you sure? And he was like, yeah, I didn't hear it. And so at this point, it's been sitting in place for about 10 seconds or 15 seconds. And I'm like, well, then take it out. When he takes it out, the needle's actually exposed, which I had never seen. Like, you see the needle in there, but I had never seen the needle out. And so for those of you who don't know, that second click is actually the needle shooting back in. So I have a video, I will leave it here somewhere, where I show close up where you could see it going in, the needle shooting out and then retracting. So when you hear that second click, that's the needle coming back. And I know that per the instructions, it says to hold it in place for about 6 seconds just to make sure that you don't remove it too fast. I think that's what that's for, but I have been on it so long that I know I hear that second click, I'm done. Like, you know, the needle has retracted at that point. Right. So when he showed me the needle was sticking out, I was like, oh my God. And the trigger at that point was plush. Like, there was nothing else to do. There was nothing to push, and the medication was still in there. So even though the needle had come out, the medication was still in there. So it did never come out of the pen. And so he's like, what do I do now? What do I do now? And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't even, like, nothing is working on the pen. Like, at that point, it was already on the lock, so you can't, it was unlocked already, I should say. So you couldn't unlock it anymore. Like, it was jammed in place, and there was nothing to push on the needle at that point. So I don't know what I did. I kind of just jerked it enough to where all of a sudden you see the medication just squirting across the room, and I'm like, you're freaking out because you know how hard it is to get your hand on the medication. You know how expensive it is, and even though he's only paying $25 for it, it still freaks you out because it's like, no, liquid gold just spraying,
and it's hard to get too from the doctor and from the pharmacy. So I didn't want to waste it, right?
So yes, so at that point he's like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, well, do you have any more pens left? I mean, I know they'll replace the boxes, so don't worry about using another pen. Go ahead and just, if you had. And he's like, yeah, I have one pen left. But at this point, you're having issues getting the doctor to refill it, right? Like it takes time for them to refill it. Like I don't know why they don't just give them 3 months at a time. They've been giving them a month at a time.
I go a week and a half not taking the shot sometimes.
Yes. So he's like, well, I have one shot left. And I said, well, go ahead and take your second shot. He had already used the other two just fine. So he grabs the second shot, goes to inject it. This time I'm watching him because I'm thinking you did something wrong. You pushed it too hard. So I see that he's like pushing it deep into his stomach really hard. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like the whole design of the pen is where you can just put it up against your skin plush and then hit the trigger. The needle will come out of the actual injection. You don't need to like squeeze it in. And so he does it, he shoots it in. It's very slow.
Right.
Like it takes a while for him to hear it, like the first snap. And then he's sitting there, he's like, I don't hear it. I didn't hear it again. Yeah. And so I take it out for him and the needle's sticking out again. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, what are the odds that 2 injections in a row would fell on him? So at this point, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even want to mess with the pen because I know that I don't know what I did with the last pen that just shot the medicine out. And at this point, I see the medication still in there also in this pen. So I tell him, okay, I'm just going to stick it back in there and try to wiggle it. And can you imagine, like, he hates needles. I'm okay with putting this one in. I don't see it, whatever. But, like, imagine now I have to imagine myself, like, jerking it around to see if I hear that second click. So I'm not going to play with it outside of his stomach. So at this point, I put it back in his abdomen area, and I'm like literally like messing with the pin while I'm got the needle in him. And so we're going, and then boom, we hear it go off. So I keep it on his belly. I hear it retract, and I pull it out at that point, and medicine just kind of squirts from around the area. So I don't know exactly how much medication went into his abdomen at that point because I still saw medication coming out of the injection site. So he's like, well, do you think it worked? I'm already like feeling like I need it. And I'm like, I don't know. I can't say that it did or didn't. I said, but I know that you need to call Eli Lilly. Right. And so you called them and then let us know about that.
Yeah, so I went on the website, tried to figure out who to contact, got on the chat and let them know that I had a pin malfunction on me. And then they gave me a number, 1-800 number.
We'll put that number in here for you guys. Right. That way, in case anybody has had this issue, we will leave that information below.
Right. So I called the number, talked to a live representative, and there was a lot of questions once I got a hold of somebody. I told them what happened with the pin, how many pins that it malfunctioned on, and then from there we just went step by step. One of the first things they asked me was, they asked for my name, of course, the doctor that prescribed it, the pharmacy that gave it to me, right? What do you say?
Where they prescribed it.
Where they prescribed it.
Who the prescriber was.
Yeah, who the prescriber was. And then from there, it was just, they started off with, okay, so how did you take the shot? And we want to know exactly what you did that morning when you grabbed the shot out of the refrigerator.
No, they wanted to know when you picked it up.
Oh, when I picked it up.
How long was your ride home?
Yes, okay, I forgot about that. Yeah. They wanted to know when I picked it up, how long was my ride home from the pharmacy to the house,
what
right?
Temperature?
The temperature in the vehicle. Did I stop anywhere else to where, I let it get warm inside the vehicle? The temperature that day as well. And then, so I went through all those questions, answered those for them.
When you got home, where did you put it?
When I got home, did I just leave it on the cabinet, or did on the cabinet, or did I just, on the table top, or did I just put it straight in the refrigerator?
They want to know if he left it out on the countertop, or if he had actually went and put it straight in the refrigerator. Yeah.
So then, okay, I answered all those questions, and then from there, it was like, okay, so now we're going to go step by step on the injection day.
Well, but also, if you refrigerated it, did you put it somewhere where somebody else could have tampered with it?
Those are other questions. Those come in second.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought it was.
So at first, I had to go. They wanted to know ejection day, the step by step. So it was very detailed too. So I had to tell them, okay, I opened up the fridge, grabbed my first injection. Popped open the lid here. What is that called?
The cap.
The cap, I'm sorry, the end cap. How long did it take for me to go when I removed the end cap into the injection site? And did I click it? Did I unlock it before I removed the cap? or did I unlock it after I removed the cap? So we went through that whole process, and then how long did I keep it at the ejection site? Did I keep it for 10 seconds or more? So I answered all these questions, and then I told him that it was 2 pins, and he's like, okay, so now I need to know step by step for the second pin. So I'm like, all right, went step by step with that same process. And then after that, you know, he's like, he put me on hold for a little bit, and then from there, he's like, all right, now we're gonna go a little bit more detail. He goes, where do you store it at? I told him I store it in the refrigerator. Okay. When you store it in the refrigerator, do you have this own spot for the injection sites? I mean, the ejections? And I'm like, yes, I do, for the pins. And then he asked, did I take them out? Did I store them out of the box, or did I keep them in the box in the refrigerator? I tell him I keep them in the box. And then he wants to know, okay, so since it's in the refrigerator, do you place any kind of deli meat on top of it? Do you put a soda on top of that box? What do you do? I said, no, it's in its own little corner in the refrigerator. Nothing's on top of it. If there is something on top of it, it's my wife's her box of Manjaro pins.
And we keep them in the boxes. We don't ever take the pens out of the boxes.
Right. So step by step. Then he wanted to know, did we have any like power surges? You know, anything that would where we had any where the lights was off. What he said.
The power was out.
Yeah, the power was out or anything like that. Was any time did we go through any of that during that time?
Which it wouldn't have mattered because you can store them up to 86 degrees, right? So even if it was room temperature, it should have been okay.
Right.
That shouldn't affect the click, I would imagine. But anyways, that was something else they asked.
Right, that was just something else they asked. And then from there, we finally got to the point to where he's like, okay, we're going to go ahead and help you out. It looks like everything you're saying you didn't.
Lot number, they wanted lot number.
Oh, the lot number. Forgot about that. Yeah, they did want the lot number. And I gave him the number, but he also wanted to make sure that I sent him a picture of it. So luckily I took a picture of it that day.
So make sure that if you have any pens malfunction, that you keep the pens away from your other pens. Like, I don't know about you guys, but we keep containers where we just throw all the pens as soon as you use them. So if this happens, make sure that you keep those pens apart, that you take pictures, time, date, like make all your notes as to what day, what time, the lot, the bin, take a picture of it. That way, if they ask you for all this information, you will have that offhand.
Right. And then from there, he goes back to asking technical questions on the pen. Did I see the medicine, that little plunger that's right here in the middle? That if I was able to see it moving when I was pressing down on the trigger, which it didn't, right? He wanted to know, like, he wanted me to know the speed of how it was injecting out. Like, I couldn't really tell him.
It was slow. Remember
right,
that second one, we realized it was slow moving.
So I said it was slow, but then when I was answering his questions, I did tell him I usually leave it there for like 6 to 7 seconds. But after, I guess I didn't really know what to tell him. So, but then he was like, well, that's not too slow, right? Because we asked for y'all to keep it for 10 seconds. So did I mess up and I'm not going to be able to get my pins replaced? But no, other than that, it wasn't too bad. It was just a lot. Be ready for a lot of questions. They're going to ask you a lot of questions on how you store the pin, how you inject it yourself, where you received your medication from, how long the drive was from your pharmacy to your home. It's a lot of questions they ask. And got approved. They sent the voucher to the pharmacy.
And that took a few days.
That took a few days, yeah. I still haven't received my pins.
The pharmacy to get it filled, right? You still haven't gotten any pins? And it's been how long now?
About a week.
A week and a half.
Yeah, about a week already. Because they're saying they still haven't received the voucher. So I may have to call them back, Eli Lilly. Call them back and see. They did say, though, don't throw these away. Because when you go and make a service call, or what do you call it?
Make a claim.
Make a claim on your pin. They don't want you to throw them away because they will send you prepaid shipping package, I guess.
So they sent him this. It came in the mail just about a day ago, right?
Yeah.
So it is a biohazard container, and it comes with its own biohazard container, and they want you to actually send the pens that malfunctioned back in here. So
don't get scared when you see it either, because it was in just a regular brown box. I didn't even know where it came from. And nowadays we're so used to just opening up boxes, and as soon as I open up the box, I see the biohazard, and then I see this weird packaging that they had. Right? It's like some kind of insulation. So I was like, oh man. So I go and tell my wife, look what I got, and she's all freaking out too, right? So then I just thought I'll joke with her, and I was like, I'm gonna open it up, and then she freaked out a little bit, but I told her it came from Eli Lilly. So, but yeah, they will send you all this back for you to send the pins back. So
did the box say Eli Lilly on it?
no, the box didn't say Eli Lilly on it.
Which they probably know. So many people know about Eli Lilly. They don't want to like mark the box and somebody think it's
Right.
$1,500 worth of pins in there.
All right. So I am going to send my 2 back, but I'm waiting for my voucher. As soon as I get my voucher and I get my pins, then I'll return it because there's really no reason to return it right now. So
Yeah, I would call them and see why it's taking so long for them to have gotten the voucher.
right. So that was my journey on trying to put in a claim for 2 pins that malfunctioned on me on the same day.
What else you want to talk about?
Yeah, that's it.
What do you say it like that?
You didn't even tell me how much I weighed when I lost.
This wasn't a video about your journey. This was about how the pin malfunctioned. So yes, he's been on his journey on and off. When he first got diagnosed as diabetic, this was a few years ago, and he was having a lot of issues. He had just turned 40 at that point, and I was noticing that he was going to the bathroom a lot to go urinate, and he'd get up in the middle of the night and wake me up, and I'm like, you're not 80 years old. Like this is not normal for a brand new 40-year-old to be having to get up 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night to go pee. Like this is just not things that they do. And then he had started having other issues, and he would literally be wearing his what was that? Not Apple Watch, but like a Fitbit.
Yeah,
was
like
it
a
a
Fitbit. Yeah.
He would be wearing his Fitbit, and it would start alerting his phone like that he was overworking, that his heart rate was really fast.
My heart rate was too high.
Yeah, and he'd be sitting down, and so this is how I was like, that's not normal. You're not doing absolutely anything. You're just sitting down and talking. You shouldn't be getting alerts that your heart rate is beating extremely fast. You were always thirsty.
Yeah.
What else was going on?
I had to urinate a lot. At that time, I was traveling for work a lot in San Antonio. I was probably stopping 3 or 4 times before I even got there.
And that's literally a 3-hour drive, you guys.
Yeah. And for me, I just thought it was because of the monsters I was drinking, and at that time, my work was pretty. I had a heavy workload at that time, and it was dealing with a lot. So I just thought it was just being nervous, or just a lot on my plate, right? And then drinking a lot of monsters. So I really was blaming it on the monsters. And for a trip like that, I could probably drink 2 or 3 of them, and it wasn't, like you said, it was like a 3-hour trip. But I was stopping a lot to urinate.
And I was literally telling him, like, at this point, I'm only 36 and he just turned 40. And I'm just like, this is just not normal. I just feel like there's a lot of things going on with you that just doesn't seem right. And I kept asking him to go to the doctor. And it literally took me crying one day and like making him open his eyes and telling him, like, we're so young. We've got 3 young children. Like, I need you to make sure you're taking care of yourself, because God forbid something happened to you, I'm going to be left alone with 3 small children. Like, you need to take, and I'm healthy as an ox. I feel great, blah, 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 blah. And so I finally literally basically had to hold his hand to the doctor. Like, I had to make sure, did you schedule your appointment? I'm going to go with you to your appointment because I'm afraid you're not going to ask all the questions, because you know how it is. When you finally get to the doctor, you forget half of the things you went in there to complain about until you leave. And then you're like, oh, I forgot to tell him this or that, right? So I literally went with him that morning. And he didn't say anything to the doctor. What brings you in today? Oh, I don't know. I turned 40, coming to get my physical, see what happens. And I'm like, no, he's here because he's getting up 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night. His heart rate's through the roof. Like, I started letting the doctor know a lot of the issues he was having. And so they took all his blood work, and then they took his blood sugar right then and there at the office. And they had asked him to go in fasting, and it was only about 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And they take his blood sugar, and the nurse comes back and she's like, did you eat something this morning? And he's like, no, I have not eaten anything. Why? And she's like, we have a problem. Your blood sugar is at 373. 373?
It was high. Yeah.
373 right now. She's like, that's not normal. Like, that's high even after a meal. And so we left the visit, and we were just kind of like, wow, 373, that's really high. Like, and they called him the next day. So that was Friday. They called him on a Saturday. Doctors never call you on a Saturday unless something is going on, or the next day after a visit. And so sure enough, they let him know that His A1C had come back diabetic. You were at what? How many points were you at? 8 or 9?
Not 8, yeah.
They let him know his blood pressure was through the roof, his cholesterol was through the roof, like just everything. His triglycerides were all over the place. So they basically were like, we need to get you on medication right away. We're going to send the, metformin, and I can't remember what other stuff they sent for you, your cholesterol, your blood pressure medication or whatever. So they sent that all into him, and we started reading up on it. And I'm like, could you imagine if I had not cried it out that night, talked to him about how it was making me nervous that so many things were starting to happen to him. If he had continued like that, I mean, he could have easily had a heart attack or went into some kind of diabetes shock. Because
you won't make me cry.
Don't cry.
I mean, anything could have happened at that point. And so he wasn't even, though, he got prescribed metformin and Synjardy?
Synjardy, yeah.
Which has metformin in it.
Synjardy. It was the highest one.
So that's what he got prescribed. It wasn't until I went to go see the doctor about weight loss and being told I was pre-diabetic and all that good stuff, and they prescribed me the compound version of Ozempic at that time. And I told him, I was like, that's weird. Why wouldn't you know about this medication? Apparently it regulates your blood sugar really well, and it's a once a week injection. So it wasn't until he saw that I succeeded on Mounjaro and that I was doing really well, and he heard all these stories about how it's helping people regulate their blood sugar and whatnot. So he finally went back to the doctor years later and was like, hey, my wife's been on this and she's losing weight, and a lot of people are saying they have success on this. And so that's how he ended up on the Mounjaro journey. It's been interesting because not always do you know, even though you're a diabetic, not always are doctors going to give you the best option to treat your illness, right? So.
But that probably could have been a little bit of me not asking for it. I just went to the
To
doctor.
ask for it.
I would just go and say, yeah, I'm here for my refills, and just try to just hurry up and get out.
But a good provider would educate you on all your options.
Yeah.
You don't know your options, and you wouldn't have known if I hadn't gone on my journey. So that's the thing, right? We have to educate ourselves because providers are going to give you what's most convenient to them. So.
Yeah. I was 270 before I started this, and then got down to 240. Yeah, 240, and then jumped on Mounjaro, and then from there I'm now on 228. So not too bad. One time I hit all the way down to 214, but she didn't like it. She wanted me to get a little bit more meat on my bones, so I got back up to 230.
Don't blame that on me. You're gonna make them think I'm the one that. No, you got off of it for a little while. You got off all your medications for a little while.
Yeah, when I switched jobs, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't want to go back to the doctor and go through all that ordeal again.
Yeah.
Which thankfully, when you went back, it was still not bad.
No.
But he put you on Mounjaro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys want to hear more about his entire journey and how he's, experienced his weight loss, because it obviously has not been as quick as my weight loss. It's taken him a lot more time, and then he's kind of been at a standstill for the last couple of weeks. He hasn't lost a drastic amount of weight, and I know that a lot of you get frustrated if you don't lose weight right away, but it's completely normal, especially when you have other things that are aiding in making it harder or more difficult for you. Because he's diabetic and he's got the high blood pressure and, other things going on. So that could also, you've got to take into effect that everyone is different. Everyone's going to lose it at a different pace. If you're on it strictly for weight loss because you don't have anything, then you should be able to lose it a little bit faster unless you have things like PCOS or anything like that. So don't compare yourself to anyone's journey. It's good to have an overall image or idea of what is the average for people, but don't feel like, oh, this person lost 20 pounds in a month, because guess what? This other person may have lost only 4 pounds a month, and it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you stay patient and you stay consistent, you will eventually lose. Those little 4 pounds add up over time. So and if you're using it for the sole purpose of being diabetic, that was my mom. She was diagnosed to be diabetic, and she started taking the medication for that reason, and she at the beginning was like, I'm not doing this for weight loss. I'm doing it for my diabetes. And she ended up losing over 100 pounds in less than a year. So if you're more interested, or if you're interested in hearing his journey and you would like me to bring him back so that he can explain, better terms what he did, how he lost the weight, then feel free to let me know in the comments. And you guys, you know, we're more than willing to share. Did you have anything else that you wanted to
No, I
say?
don't have anything else to say. Thank y'all for listening to me.
Yes, thank you guys for inviting us into your homes. And as usual, make sure you like and subscribe. We have grown our community so much, and I want to keep growing. Our goal is to hit 10,000 by my birthday, so hopefully we can do that. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As usual, my loves, till next time, talk soon. You're such a goofball.